Hey there. Good morning, everybody. It's your favorite host, Tim and Tim. We're back for another Making Moves episode, Tuesday, 10 a.m. We're here. We're glad you're joining us. Tim, how you doing this morning, man?
I can't complain. That's for sure. Not too bad.
Yeah, man. It's been a good day, been a good month. We've been busy as all get out. And we're here to share some stories with you today on what it looks like as we've announced our new company, Vive Equity. Underneath Vive Equity, we have a property management company. So we're a vertically integrated multifamily acquisition company now. In the works is a construction wing of the business. So we're just going to talk about some transparency things here on what this transition looked like, and how it's been difficult, things that we've learned. I mean, there's so many things as you start to peel back that onion layer, as you learn more into a new industry that we've been involved with, but never to this layer before. So
Yeah, yeah,
hope to just kind of share some stuff with you and really provide maybe some value or some insight or some inspiration for you guys to ask questions and potentially do this for yourselves.
yeah, man. I think it's. I'll get started. Hey, what's going on, Dennis?
What's up, Dennis?
I'll get it started off here. Like I think I underestimated all the little things. Right?
Yeah,
It's like
totally.
because as you're going through this, you talk to guys, and some of them even like see you and me on our asset management calls. Because we're meeting with somebody who's vertically integrated already, or whatever, and they see what we're doing. They're like, "Man, you're already doing this. You're already doing this," and it's like, yeah. Come turns out we are right. We're already property managing to in a lot of ways, right? Especially, but we're really kind of managing property management, and but getting it onboarded, it's all the little stuff, right? It's like business licenses and all the setup. Like you're taking on the brunt of all the accounting setup inside of our system. All that setup, man. It's just like, holy cow. There's just a whole lot of like little underpinning foundational stuff that you just don't take into account. Uh,
Yeah, there's so many little things, and they keep kind of progressing, right? As we grow a little bit more, we're doing something different. We're learning a little bit more. We're learning a little bit more. Like one thing, for example, that I thought was kind of funny was when we had to join the National Association Apartment Association (NAA), and the National Apartments Association. I thought it was like, okay, we just join the NAA and then you're fine. You can use the Blue Moon leases and everything will be hunky dory. Well, turns out not only do you need to be a member of the NAA, but you also need to be part of the local local apartment association. So, in order for the leases to work, you have to join both of these different groups, and it's just little things. It's like I just don't understand why I don't have like a national login. Like you pay for this thing, you do your continuing education credits and you do whatever's required, but no, now you have to join the local one as well as the national associations. And it's little things like that that keep like chopping us away at the knees. And little chihuahuas like biting at you all the time, because it's like, don't forget to do this, and it's just like that one little thing will like break the whole system if it's not done. And
yeah,
it's like, well, now you can't do leases, you can't do new leases or renewals. I mean, you can't really do anything until you have those things. So it's,
yeah,
I hate to be reactive, but a lot of this stuff, as we're kind of bumping our knees and getting dragged through here, trying to learn all this stuff, is a lot of reaction. And then once we're up and running and smoothly, I mean, it's only been 18 days that we've been managing our own stuff now. So as we continue to learn and grow, I'm sure 90 days from now, we'll be laughing about all these little things that we didn't know that we had to set up that we now have set up. But then we say, okay, well, now that we're good, we didn't take on our whole portfolio. We just took on a handful of properties in order to make sure that we are doing it correctly and we have all the systems and processes in place. Well, now we're going to go back and make sure that we're making those systems and the processes efficient, because we're just kind of reacting to everything that's happening right now, throwing resources at it as needed. But then really the planning and the execution comes 90 days later when you're like, okay, how do we make sure that this is a smooth process going forward?
yeah. 100%, man. Because it's all that little stuff just keeps adding up, but it's absolutely necessary. And folks, like, don't let things like this keep you from going this route if
Right.
you're considering it, because it's like everything else, right? There's a learning curve. And once you get over that learning curve, hopefully, if you're doing things right, and once you get over that learning curve, then it starts to level out. And that's just where we're trying to get, right? We're just trying to get to that level maintaining phase, um, where then we can start to really focus on fine tuning systems and
Hmm.
processes, right? Just making them more efficient. So, right now, to be honest, guys, there's like some just brute force effort, right? A little less on the systems and process, a little more on the like, hey, just put the time in and get it done.
Hmm.
Um, but I got to be honest, and I think D and Vince out in Hawaii said it best. Like, anybody who tries to tell you that you can start a business from day one and just focus on it 4 hours a week, they're fooling you, right?
Yeah.
That's not how it works.
Right.
Um,
And yeah, but huge shout out here. Our regional manager, she runs our property management company, Crystal. I mean, she's got more than 20 years of experience. She's been doing this her whole life. And thank God we put the right person in the right seat because she has just really come through and
yeah,
saved our asses for better, for lack of better words, in telling us like, no, we have to do it this way and we'll get this set up that way and we'll do all of these things. And it's been fun. It's hard. It's difficult. It has been a lot of brute force, but it's like it's not, first take this with a grain of salt. But when, we closed what, 15 deals last year or something like that. Like at a certain point in time, when you're doing that many deals using third party management, it's just another deal. But now we're doing deals and we're taking it on with our own management and we're analyzing our underwriting differently because we're looking at the payroll bonuses and we're looking at, the payroll overhead costs and, where can we charge our management fees in order to make sure that the management company is breaking even or making a little bit of money. And ultimately, all of those savings that we're working on get passed on to our investors to make sure that we're doing better deals. So like for construction, for example, a GC might charge you 30% overhead right cost on their construction costs. If we have our own company and we have our own payroll, we could charge like 10, right? So that's 20% savings right off the top of a call it $1 million rehab budget. That's $200,000 in construction costs you just saved right there, right?
yeah,
So all of those things are really kind of exciting now because you're like, wow, look how good the returns can be because we have control over all of these different variables where we don't really need to make money in all of these different wings of our business. Sure, they're going to break even, make some profit so that you have some profit sharing and bonuses and stuff like that for those employees, but they don't have to pay Tim and Tim a salary because Tim and Tim get paid through the real estate profits. And we don't pay taxes on those, right? I don't really want to show a lot of money in those service companies because they get taxed through the wazoo, right? It's, if you can put it through your real estate business and take your income from there as long-term capital gains, you get taxed less, right? So there's tax efficiencies for us, but also for our, making better returns for the investors. And, it's a very symbiotic relationship. We're not letting really any money go out the door anymore except for like a lender, a lending broker, they'll find us a new loan, an insurance broker that finds us an insurance policy, but pretty much everything else is in house for us now.
yeah, and and guys, it comes down to like little things, right? Like, instead of paying $4,200 for flooring, right? Like, we know we can do it for 3,300. $900 a unit savings. That adds up. Take a 100 unit property, hell, take a 50 unit property, and multiply that $900 savings by 50. That's right back to the investors, right?
Hmm.
Um, so things like that. I'm getting ready to go meet one of our GC partners this week over and start having conversations with the Lowe's Pro guys, right? Because now that we're taking this in house on anything that we're taking in house, we're going to go negotiate across the board, across all of our units, and we're able to control that. Whereas before, sometimes what you get is the answer of, well, this isn't how we do it elsewhere, or this isn't how our other uh, property owners do it, right? And it's like, I'm not trying to do it the way that your other property owners are doing it, right? I'm trying to do it the way I think is the best way. And so now we're able to do that, right? Now we're able to do that with less resistance. Now we're able to do that with um and take on the idea of, hey, this seems right. Let's give it a shot, right? Let's
Yep.
see how this works.
Yeah, it just gives us a bit more flexibility.
Yeah.
I control the controllables at the end of the day. And when you're systematizing everything and you're using the same finishes on all the apartment units and whatever, it really makes the lives of the contractors that much easier too, right? Because there's never a question of what floor are we going to use, what paint are we going to use. Well, just go to Lowe's Pro, tell them you're with Vive Equity, and there you go. Your list of stuff has already been pre-selected for you. Just grab what you need, attach it to the work order, and boom, there we go. We're on to the races so that you guys can get work done you need to have done.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and you got to give credit to some folks, right? Like, we've had a couple of guys that we look to and we talk to and consider mentors, that have been on us for what, a year now, at least.
Oh, easily a year.
Yeah, and they're like, "You got to do this. You've got to do this." Um, and we kind of pushed it off for a while, right? We were focused on some other things, but then over the last, what, 6 to 8 months, it was just kind of like, yeah, it's time. We need to start looking at this, taking a look at what it would look like. Um, so that's kind of what got us here. But back to the whole setup and all the lessons learned. So I don't know, man. What would Tim? What would be like your top lesson? Like what's your takeaway so far?
Hmm.
I'm putting him on the spot, folks.
Oh, you are totally putting. You didn't prep me for these questions, man.
No.
Um, Gosh, I don't really know what my big. I mean, because there's just so many things flying around right now. I mean, obviously, the importance of good accounting is incredibly important. I shout out to Seth Teagle. He kind of put me down that path of making sure that you got the right accountant in the, making sure all the bills are paid on time, making sure that the checks and balances are there. But one of the things that, really I didn't understand how much work went into it is the whole HR side of things. Like
Mm,
when it comes to negotiating payroll, when it comes to negotiating bonuses, when is payroll going to get paid out? How are they going to get paid out? When are bonuses done? How are they tracked and calculated? There's so many things. Tim wasn't told there'd be a quiz later. Yeah, that's fair. I was told there was no math. um, I think that was the biggest thing for me mentally trying to get over was the payroll side of things. Because my default from my corporate career was, well, I'm on salary. I got paid twice a month, right? In the 15th and the last day of the month. So it just take your total salary divided by 24, and there's your check, right? And there's a lot more that goes into it when you're working with like maintenance guys, for example. Like, they want to be paid every week or every other week, and they don't want to wait, only get paid twice a month and things like that. So what I thought I wanted to do is how we started it, and then had to go back and readjust and redo the whole entire system because that was met with such pushback. They were like, okay, we can't do it this way. The way that I wanted to do it would do it to make everybody else happy. So there was double work there, and that's okay, right? I made a choice, I made a decision, it got us to where we needed to be. And then as there was problems that have arisen from that decision that was made, we looked at the options again and we did what was necessary, right? I mean, yeah, I hate doing double work. Everybody should hate everyone should hate doing double work. But at the end of the day, like, I made a decision, it moved our business forward. And, we're just going to go back and fix it, and we'll adjust and pivot along the way. I mean, we don't,
yeah.
no decision here is life or death, right? Everything can always go back and be changed at the end of the day. So yeah, I think, the lesson there is just make a decision and move forward, because there's so many other things that are going to come up that you need to make decisions on. Don't sit there and dwell over making the perfect decision. Just make a decision, and then if it wasn't the right one, then just change it, right? I mean, sure, you're going to have to do some work here, but this is part of the process of learning, getting the bumps and the scrapes and the, getting the scars, right, of setting up your first business and learning all of these things for the first time. It is what it is at the end of the, yeah, progress over perfection. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I love that. What
Yeah.
what was yours?
Uh, Man, I got a few. If I'm
Oh, all
being
right.
honest,
Well, so yeah, you just had a couple minutes to think about it while I
I did. I've been sitting here noodling on it. And I was like, I'm going to come up
Oh,
with a
that's a pretty
better
good one,
answer.
Tim.
um, I got to be honest, guys. Like, we kind of knew this was coming. But I think being ready to hire everybody, not everybody you need, but your top two from the start would have been, if I could go back in time, I would have said, hey, what's it take to get these? What are the two people we think we need to start? What does it take to get them on board first? Because Tim and I got to a point where we were like, do we hire a regional or an ops person? A regional or an ops person? And it was like, well, we landed on regional for a couple of reasons. We're quickly finding out that we also, not instead of, but also needed the ops person at the same time. And some of that's coming with like what Vitali's talking about. And I'll give you some other examples on that because, I came from an IT background. So I'm kind of used to somebody giving me like my phone and my laptop and a password, and I'm good. I don't need a lot of support after that. But I can also code and I can also hack into computers and do certain things. So, I can pretty much figure this kind of stuff out. A lot of people can't. And quite frankly, I didn't hire people to figure that out, right? I didn't hire people to sit there and figure out how to set up laptops, right? So, that's been one of the things that's kind of been an aha moment for me is like, hey, you need people, you need systems and processes not only to onboard people, but to provide them the tools day one so they can just start working you know
Mhm.
like Tim is like Microsoft Office, right? And it's like, oh shit, we need Microsoft Office for the company, not for me and Tim and I have it individually, so it
Mhm.
was just never a thought, right? That's just
Yeah,
never a thought. But
that's a
oh
good one.
crap, these guys need it, right? So it's little stuff. That's what we're talking about, like these little pricks, right?
Yeah,
It's
it's
like,
those little chihuahuas just biting you away at the ankle. It's like,
yeah,
yeah, we knew they needed a computer, and we were like, hey, we'll just do cell phone, like reimbursement credits or whatever in payroll, instead of buying cell phones. But like, we're like, cool, all right, that's all they need. And then it's all of the other stuff that came up with setting up the emails and the passwords and getting the Microsoft Office and some people don't know how the Dropbox works. So then it's sitting there and going through all that kind of stuff. And it's nothing's really difficult, right? Nothing has been overly difficult. It just takes a lot
takes
of
time.
time.
Yeah,
That's it. It's just a lot of time. It's like anybody can sign up for a Microsoft Office subscription. Anybody can do it. You throw in a credit card and an email address and you're done, right? It takes 15 minutes tops. But it's like it's that 15 minutes and the next 15 minutes and the 40 investor phone calls and meetings with the sellers and the brokers and the bank and all the insurance companies and all this other kind of stuff. They're like, when do I fit in the time to do all these little 10 and 15-minute tasks? And hell, there's been a lot of late nights on both of our ends. I mean, we're, being in Hawaii for 2 weeks, that was early mornings and then kind of working and shifting around the schedule and things like that. So, man, it's not difficult. It's just tedious. Yeah. That's another,
well,
man, you are on fire today.
yeah, well, yeah, no kidding. But then I think Scott Hanna said it last week, right? Like,
Hmm.
then there's the after the fact aha moments. Like, I have an
Yeah.
assistant. I have an assistant that I use. I am not utilizing her, right? Like you're talking about, like the 15 minutes to go sign up for Microsoft Office. In my head, I'm like, man, it's 15 minutes. Let me just go do it, right?
Right.
Well, then there's another 15. There's another. I could have easily said, hey, Miriam, go set this up, right?
Hmm.
Go set this up, email it to these 5 people.
Yeah.
And that would have taken me a minute and she could have done the 15 minutes of setup. I didn't do that.
Yeah.
I,
No, of course not.
I didn't do that.
It's hard. I mean, it's hard. I mean, I don't care who you are. I mean, I know that there's a lot of people in here that will come in and preach about, hiring the right people and this, that, and the other thing. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. But as you transition towards delegating even those small tasks that you normally would have just done yourself, it would have taken you, a minute to 5 minutes to write an email, and it would have taken that person a half an hour to set up the thing. But if you calculate your hourly wage at $1,000 an hour and you can pay somebody $10 an hour, like it makes sense to go leverage that 30 minutes of their time to go do it instead of 10 of your own.
Yeah. Well, and that's where I was going with the Scott. Because remember last week he said, I look at $10 an hour, $100, 1,000, and $10,000 an hour
Yep.
tasks, right?
Yeah.
And this was a $10 an hour task, right?
Yep.
And I did
Yep.
it.
Yep.
And that
Hey,
was
I'm
the wrong
guilty. I do
person to
it
be
too.
doing it.
I
Yeah.
just, hey, let me get into, this brute force, right? I mean, that's what we were talking about before. Everything, it's just brute force. And then you find yourself working 12-hour days again, and you're like, damn it, this is not why I started to go into business for myself. I was trying to get back my time. And it's a learning process. Like, we're not perfect, folks. I mean, we're continually learning and growing and adapting and changing and kind of just getting experience at the end of the day. But like a year from now, we're going to look back at that and be like, what idiots we were.
Every day I look back.
Oh, yeah, right.
I'm like, what an idiot I was.
My
Um,
wife can do that in about 10-minute increments.
yeah, I feel like mine just walks around looking at me like that. What an
Why
idiot.
did you do it that way? Well, I don't know.
I don't know.
That's what I thought was good.
Yeah, which is funny because, Tim's got it on the shelf behind him. I actually have it on the shelf behind me that you can't see, but, who not how? I mean, come on. We sit here and we preach that, but we're still guilty, right?
Yeah, it's
Um,
hard. I mean, I understand the concepts of it, but implementation of the concept is where the real talent comes.
yeah, yeah, so but hey, folks, that's just how it is, We're all kinda getting through it, struggling through it, but at the end of the day, Tim and I fully know that we need to, do a little bit more around, delegation, a lot more around ops and systems and things like that, so, hey, what's one of the first things we did when we got back from Hawaii? We called, a consultant up that works with guys like us on how to build high performing teams and identifying talent. And we're going to be connecting with that guy. We're going to be
Yeah.
working with him.
We're hiring yet another coach, that's going to help us build the right teams. And, I'm a believer after working with him and after talking with him for what, 10 minutes. I was like, oh my God, dude, like, are you God? How do you know all these things?
How do you know this about me?
How do you know this? But I was shocked, it's just like, you pay people to do what they do. And that's what this guy does. And, we're hiring another coach. I mean, God, we have so many coaches. It's crazy. Because you know, I believe in paying people to do what they do. And, they're still struggling with the delegation side of things, but hiring coaches to learn about stuff is not a problem for me anymore. It's like, cool. How much does that cost? Done. Right. You see the value on one of those transactions. What, so,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just lost my train of thought there. Um, Golly.
Yeah, so yeah, we're so just a little bit on that. Like we're engaging with this guy. And it's kind of like what Scott was talking about last week on identifying your needs, but then so identifying the needs, a gap you have in your team, but then there's the second part, right? Identifying the person to fill that gap. And not only the person to fill that gap, but the person that will complement Tim and Tim, right?
Right.
Tim Tim has Tim has things he does well, and then he has shortfalls. I have things I do well. I have many shortfalls. So we need somebody that can fill those shortfall gaps with us, right? So it's we know what the company needs. Now we need to go find the person that can address that while also fitting in with Tim and Tim's puzzle piece.
Mhm.
So and that's where this guy comes in. So we're gonna connect with that because hey, one of the things Tim and I had a conversation last week, right? It's like, can we afford to do this, right? And it's like, well, can we afford not to? Because making the wrong hire probably costs us way more
Way
than
more.
this, right?
Mhm.
Because what it takes, 60, 90, 120 days to tell you hired the wrong person,
Right.
sometimes more.
Sometimes
Um,
more. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you could put your best foot forward there, it's
yeah,
worth its weight in gold.
yeah. So go get coaches. I think that's the moral of this story, right? Go get coaches.
Yeah, and one of the other things that we learned about recently was there was I don't remember if it was a company or just a person, right? And we could have hired a person as a consultant to come in and help us set up all this stuff. And we're like,
Yeah,
well, damn, if I had known about that like 60 days ago, that would have been on the radar. And it definitely is on the radar now that we've been through it. And we're like, my goodness, how much time and opportunity have we lost because we were focusing on this side of the business instead of, what Ref is saying is the money making activities, right? Those
right.
things that drive revenue and growth, right? Drive revenue. As long as they're driving revenue, then you're good.
Yeah,
We spend a lot of stuff a lot of time on the operations side of things, and brokers are literally sending us deals. And I mean, hell, I got a text last night from a broker like, hey, I need an offer on this deal now. And I was
yeah,
like, dude, we're working on something else. I can't even look at this right now. I mean,
yeah.
that's potential opportunity that's lost.
Yeah, but Tim, to your point, the conversation that Tim's talking about, we had in Hawaii because while we're there, we're talking about the property management business and another. I mean, I can just share his name. So Vince was setting up the same thing, but he
Mhm.
had hired the person that we're talking about. He had hired a consultant. Tim and I were thinking, oh, we need to hire the person. Vince was like, I can go find somebody that's a consultant to help me get started. So
Mhm.
because Vince did that, Vince is probably going to hit the ground running 30 days beyond where Tim and I hit the ground running.
Mhm.
Um, and that was kind of like an, oh yeah, okay. Um, but hey, that's a nice little softball of this question. Where did we find the coach? So Julie, we had that conversation in Hawaii with Vince. It was Vince and D's event that we were at, and the coach we found in Hawaii as well.
Mhm.
Um, and
So masterminds and your network, right? And you go to the mastermind events to build your network, and then your network reaches out infinite, to infinite touches to all their different walks of life and experiences and people that they know. And then through process of association, you start to learn about what's available out there. Like I didn't even know, it didn't even dawn on me that that was even a possibility of what was available. So,
yeah,
I'm grateful that we had went to the event. I wish that event was actually like 3 months earlier, because then it would have been, oh, okay, well, we'll just do this, save ourselves all this setup and time and hassle and what have you. But here we are today. We're dealing with our decisions and we move forward, and we'll get to where we got to go at the end of the
yeah.
day.
And guys, like one thing I would also say, another lesson learned from this is Tim and I talked about this internally a lot, and we only shared it with a couple of people.
Hmm.
After we made the announcement, we've had a number of people come out and say, "Hey, congratulations," and start to talk about, what are you guys doing? And through those conversations, it's like we're doing this, but we're struggling with this. Turns out we have a lot of people in our network, whether they're real estate related or not, who are used to setting up systems, processes, businesses, et cetera, that have offered to say, hey man, this is what I did, or here's some advice for you. For example, I got a guy I talk to quite a bit. I'm going to throw his first name out there, Bart. Bart, thank you. Bart's offered me a ton of insight into his own business that he set up about a year and a half ago. That's been very, very helpful to me. And had I reached out and probably said something about it earlier on, I could have actually used it
Yeah.
at the start. So, guys, reach out to your network. You never know who's out there who's already done what you're trying to do and who's willing to just give you 2, 5, or 10 cents worth of advice that could save you a little bit of time and effort.
Yeah, I'll give credit to where credit's due. Jennings and Yade and Smith, they love to say, "Don't be a secret agent." And
Yeah,
when they say it, it's referring to people that are trying to get into the multifamily business and they're trying to buy deals and trying to reassociate themselves as a real estate investor. Well, the same principle is true. Is don't be a secret agent about what you're struggling with. So if you start telling everybody what you're struggling with, and you have those vulnerable conversations, and you're willing to be vulnerable to the community, then people in the community are going to be willing to help you out, because that's just how humans interact. Like if somebody's struggling with something, we want to help you fix it. I mean,
yeah,
and if you're not running with a good crowd of people that when you talk about something that's vulnerable where you need help and they shoot you down, that's the wrong group of people. You got to find a new
right,
association of friends.
right. Yeah, and it's so funny, guys. Like we're talking about this, and Tim and I coach this, right? Like you start off, Tim's really good. He starts off every Monday, I believe, in our Making Moves private coaching group. He starts off with a, "Hey guys, it's Monday. What are you working on this week, and what do you need help with?" Right? And we
Sometimes,
do,
yeah, sometimes people say they don't need any help. What
yeah,
fantastic. But you never know. I mean, every week, every day something is changing. And
yeah,
all I want to do as a coach or a mentor is open that door of possibility, right? Open up the door for somebody to ask for help because they felt welcomed to do so. It's when it's the other way around, when they don't feel like they're welcome to do so, they don't feel like it's a safe space in order to ask for help, then they don't, and then they end up struggling. And again, we're not perfect. We've struggled with some of this stuff because we didn't ask for help fast enough.
right,
If we had asked for help a little bit sooner than later, maybe our conversation right now and today would be a little bit different.
yeah, yeah. And looking back on it, I think hindsight being what it is, we were like, we need to do this, we need to do it now, and we just put our heads down and started doing it.
That's it.
And there's something to be said for that, but 100% we could have mixed in a little bit more of like, hey, let's start sharing what we're trying to do and see
Mhm.
who's got some insight for us. So
Yeah, totally. Can't
yeah.
agree with you more. So,
So all right, guys.
All right, folks. Well, we are up on time today. Appreciate you joining in. Hope you found some of this insightful. What it looks like on the day-to-day level stuff that Tim and I work on. It's not just Facebook posts of closing deals. There's all stuff that happens all month and all year and all week long that gets us to that point, right? It's not just to set it and forget it. There's a lot of work day in and day out in order to get to those posts and things of success, right? So, hopefully you take a little bit of inspiration from this. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to any of us or either one of us. We're happy to help you.
Yeah.
So,
All right,
all right.
folks. Take
See you
care.
next week. Peace.